What's up? What's up? Welcome back to Two Sets and Two Cents. Thank you for joining us. Episode 4. Can't believe you guys have stuck around all this time. My gosh. Don't you have something better to do? But appreciate you guys. We are back with the whole crew this week. We got Sean, we got Drew, we got Rod. So this week, we're going to try something different. I feel like we've been covering a lot of ground on the previous episodes. So we're going to try a different format. Let us know in the comments how you like it, because we definitely want your feedback. So again, I'm Gerald. My friends call me G. Let's go around the horn here, get some quick intros. Let's start with Sean.
What's up, everybody? Sean, the Emerald Bean, here to drop my 2 cents and a nickel if you're lucky.
Thank you, sir. Drew.
What's up, everyone? It's Andrew. I'm back. Now, you said episode 4 or episode 3?
4. We're on 4,
2?
bro.
I missed 2?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Rod.
I am Rod. Just here to hang out with the guys, so have fun.
That's right. That's right. We call it 2 Sets and 2 Cents because that's all the time we got. Cool. So, weekly tradition. What are we grateful for today, boys? Drew, we haven't heard from you, buddy. It's been a minute. We missed you.
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for jiu-jitsu because I just restarted jiu-jitsu today or this week. I got my son into it too. The first couple of days were rough, but he kind of warmed up to it. And I think he's having fun. He is having fun, but I'm grateful to be able to get back to training on the mats. It's something I've been missing.
Love that. How did you get your son to agree to go? Was he like hesitant at first, or he wanted to go?
No, I forced him.
No choice.
As all
I'm gonna
parents,
help your body.
as all parents have to do. You don't
It's
know
true.
what you like. You don't know what you like. I know what you like.
It's true. I like that. Rod, how about you, buddy? What are you grateful for this week?
Well, I'm grateful for that. It's Friday. We made it through the long 4 days, even though, like I said, I only worked 3 days this week. The last episode took so much energy out of me. I needed an extra day to recover. So good rest. One nice trick that I've been doing to wake up on time is I put my work phone out in the kitchen and the alarm goes off. So I have to actually get out of bed and turn it off. It sucks, but
You can hear it?
well, it's on
That wakes you
vibrate
up?
too. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like paranoid because we have shared walls with neighbors and stuff, and I just don't want that shit vibrating all the way to the floor at like 5:55 in the morning.
So it's not actually the alarm. It's the fear of pissing your neighbors off.
Yeah, I guess so.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
Social accountability. I like it. Sean, what are you grateful for this week, man?
I had to think a little bit, honestly, because it might be the same thing, but just always grateful just for time on Earth, because I had this whole week off and I just felt like I had an abundance of time. But one thing I am really grateful for is just abundance in general, just the abundance of so much different things that we get to enjoy as humans and just as being in this country and all this other stuff. So yeah.
Give me an example. What's one thing that you're feeling in
ironic,
abundance?
I sell and push coffee, but I went to like 7 different coffee shops this week. Today I went to 3 different ones, and they all had something different to offer. And in
Nice.
other countries, you don't even have something as simple as that.
Yeah.
You're limited to what you can get. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing, man. I'm grateful for something kind of along the same vein. I'm actually grateful that we started this thing. I'm grateful that I have the time, the energy, the support to be able to do this, and even the friends, right, to share this with. For me, this has been eye-opening, like the whole experience, right? Like the creative process, the actually talking to you guys in this different format and having conversations that, we would have had, but like would have had taken like 8 or 9 drinks to finally get there. But even just like sitting down and like dedicating this every week, I really look forward to it. And you know, I've told my wife how it's sort of opened up just like my aperture a little bit in terms of how I think about friendship, community, you know, just what people need and crave. You know, I think I didn't really realize, or maybe I was pushing it down a little bit just because I was in survival mode for so long. You know, and Drew, I know you're probably in that a little bit. So I feel you. And shout out to all the parents out there with young kids, because it's not easy. But I think, yeah, it's part of just like maybe moving into a new season in my life. So, yeah, very grateful for that. I think the other thing I like to ask, and I don't know why, but Rod, your question about what's your workout win for the week? What's a quick one? Because I think that's a good place to start. It's been giving me a lot of energy hearing how you guys are doing your workouts throughout the week.
All right.
What's yours?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, I finished work and I had a brief moment to take a break, and I jumped in bed, closed my eyes, and then I was like, yes, power nap. I need this. But then I got out of bed. I was talking to my wife about the mentality of working out, and she said, I don't know where she picked it up from, probably a book or whatever, but she said, you'll never regret working out. And I was like, that's true. Unless you blow your shoulder or knee that day, then you absolutely, but that's you being, you know, crazy like the old days. But like, yeah, today, instead of taking a nap, I was like, I just squeezed out some squats. Right now, I'm working my way up to some slow, controlled squats. I did a 4x5 and did okay.
Nice. I love that. So you just have the weights just racked, and then you just pop in there whenever you have a couple minutes? Or
No. I have to do the
work?
whole thing where I have to move shit out of the way and set it up. So it's a whole process. Got to get my music going. But yeah, that took me
Nice.
about 35 minutes to do that.
Okay. Nice. I like that stuff, man.
Hell yeah.
Drew, how about you, buddy?
Well, as I said, I started jiu-jitsu again, which I love it. It's fun. I will admit that when I think about having to go jiu-jitsu, I get a little bit of anxiety. But once I'm there and I get warmed up, you know, everybody, most jiu-jitsu places, everybody's cool. So, you know, all the anxiety goes away eventually. And
What's the anxiety around?
Mhm.
you know, anxiety, at least for me, is maybe just being around new people. I mean, this is my first week at a new gym. It's people I've never met before. I'm not comfortable with. I don't know these people. I'm not comfortable with them. But you know, after you start grappling with them and you're grabbing them and you're breathing in each other's face, you know, there's nothing to be scared about it anymore.
Yeah.
It's fine. It only get better once I start getting more comfortable with these people.
Yeah. That's awesome. Why did you switch gyms?
Because I moved houses.
That's right.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so,
That's right.
and
So
this
it's
is
just
and this is also a new gym. Like everything's new. Like this is like their first week having classes as well. So
So everybody's on the
there's a bunch of new people.
same new page then. That's cool.
I think some people know each other just from like past relationships, but for the most part, everyone that I've met there is brand new to me. Everyone's super inviting. They're nice people. So.
that might be the recipe to finding lifelong friends, man. We talked about this on the other episode where, like at our gym, right? Everyone was coming up together at the same time, and that bond of like trying to figure shit out together. I mean, if you can find the time, I also know you have a lot of stuff going on right now, but like, it's pretty cool. It's awesome, man. What about you, Sean?
Um, Nothing super big. I think what was kind of cool though is I sent you guys a little post since our last, like our last few, we've been talking about the workout thing. The win for me, I feel like even though we're not together, you guys have planted this. You're like in my head now, which is like a little boost of motivation when I'm in the gym. Cause I feel like it's almost like you guys are watching me in my head, but you're not. That's what kind of boosted me. And I was thinking like, we were talking about how, fuck that. If I'm tired, I'm not going to do the workout or the stretching. I'm just going to like do some lightweight. And when like, I tried that and I felt like everything was going to break. I was like, no, fuck this. So I put everything down and went back on the little floor and I started doing all the little stretches. I was like, oh, something's tight. I was like, nah, I'm not listening to that.
Everyone's different, man.
But still, it was that little, it's like you guys are in my head and I'm like, let me try what they said. Like that. And to me, that's a good thing because I feel like that's what we bonded on. So it's like, even like, when we were at the gym, we would have a conversation and if one of you were not there, I would remember that. So then I would try when I'm at the gym and then we would circle back like, yeah, I tried what you talked about last time and it didn't work,
Right.
So it's kind of felt like that. So to me, that's a win. It's kind of like I have accountability partners again, which I was missing. And I even looked into the CrossFit gyms again to be like, let me see if I misread something, but nope. Last class, actually there was one that's at 5:30, but that's it.
Tough.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, that's a win for me.
I like it. Yeah, actually, it's mine's very similar. I think since we've been like back on the group thread and just talking about like what we've been doing, I've been going after like the girl workouts, obviously like super scaled.
Same.
But it's a nice way to like benchmark like where I'm at right now, and also be like, okay, I know where I can get to. I'm not saying that's where I need to be, but like it's an easy way for my body and my mind to remember. Right? It's like. It's not like, I need to hit a 225 bench and like blow out my shoulder. It's more like, oh, actually, even if I scale it, I'm still going to feel just as tired as I did when I was doing that prescribed. And like, that's great. Like, that's all I'm looking for, And I think being able to get back to those standards, like, I think that's awesome. And actually, Rod, like what you were talking about with the squats, what I've been doing is I just leave the bar racked with 95 pounds. And in between my calls, I'll just go like 5 minutes. I'll just pop out there.
Oh, wow.
And I'll just do 10 reps. Yeah. So like, how they say, oh, you should do like, walk around the block. Yeah. Or something, right? Yeah. Like to break up your day or get the blood flowing. Just listen to your last
I think the term now is called exercise snacks.
Exactly. Exercise snacking. That's exactly right. So now my knees feel terrible because I've been doing like, I guess it comes out to like 80 squats, like back squats every day. So maybe I should back off a little bit and ease myself back into that. But kind of what you were talking about, like with your wife, right? Just the like, you will never feel bad about getting a workout in, right? Or you'll feel better every time you do a workout. Yeah. I think that is a thing that's been conditioned into us, right? So I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I'm curious like what your guys' perspective is on like the shift where working out is almost like a barbell distribution. It's a funny way to think about it, but like there are people who are just like very into working out and there are people who are almost like demonizing it, right? Like I almost feel like, and this kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier this week, Sean, about like, I might get canceled right now, but like being out of shape like the body positivity, and how do people sort of look at, I'll just say it, like someone who's overweight, and sort of put some positive affirmations on that. Like I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that sort of movement, right? Like I have my thoughts, but I want to save it a little bit. Like I'm curious, have you guys sort of seen that?
I might get canceled too, and I'm okay with it, man. I have an opinion. I just think like I could die tomorrow, and I would regret not speaking my truth to somebody, because I think your truth can, yeah, you might hurt some people's feelings, but you also might enlighten somebody. But you don't know unless you are willing to take that risk. And so if you can enlighten one person, that's a win, because at least you're doing something. That's that one person that you with, as long as your intention is to share like something positive about a certain thing. And with that particular subject, like I'm 100% against that. Like I don't think
Against what specifically? Let's just be really clear.
Against like affirming being overweight, like making that something to be okay with. It's okay.
Or like super proud of, and
yes, like it's nothing to like praise and to like celebrate and to like have, because there's festivals about it, there's movements about it. There's somebody that got hired in San Francisco about specifically that's her job. But to me, it's like, I get it if you're in the process of trying to fix it, because like scientifically, physically, there is no good outcome with that long term, like period. Like that cannot be argued against, at least in the physical world. I get it. You can have different thoughts about things, but in the physical world, our bodies just cannot maintain there's limits, basically is what I'm saying.
Yep. I think, and I agree with you. I think there is a lot of nuance though, right? Like I think our food today is just so different than it was in the past, right? So it actually makes eating healthy not as easy, not as straightforward. And there's a lot of stuff that's hidden in our food that makes it react in a certain way. So with that premise, I also believe that it is your responsibility as someone who is just born with a body. Like, wow, you're so fucking lucky, first of all. Like, this is the only body you get. So, like, it is your responsibility to take care of it, right? And I think that part of it is something that I have like an internal struggle with when I see that body positivity sort of thing, where you're absolving someone of, their responsibility of that, right? I definitely have a lot more to say, but I want to hear from you guys. Rod, what do you think?
I actually wanted to go the other way and say that I feel like I'm going to specifically talk about women. I feel like what's trendy now? BBLs, right? Well, no. Specifically BBLs. Oh, you can't afford that? Oh, then just go to the gym. I'm actually seeing a lot more, I don't know, maybe it's my like feed or whatever. I'm seeing a lot more like strength training, women in the gym, and they're doing nothing but legs and glutes. I think that's like a very different trend than maybe 10 years ago when, we talked about CrossFit, right? Their image of CrossFit was Annie Thorsdottir. And it's like, okay, no normal person can relate to that or even see that and be like, that's me. That's going to be me. Right? I don't know. What do you guys think? Sean, you're the one at 24. What do you see over there?
Well, I want to hear from Drew. Drew first.
I'm more on the side of whatever makes you happy. If it truly makes you happy to be obese, and now we have to define what we're calling obese, because if we were to look at any BMI, it's going to say you're obese, right? If I were to look at BMI, it's going to tell me I'm obese. If you're talking about, my 600-pound life, bedridden, that kind of stuff, I don't agree with that. But on the way other end of the spectrum, there's people who are 5% body fat, have to maintain that image, that kind of body dysmorphia. I think that's bad as well. So I think there needs to be kind of a middle ground to where, it's okay to be a little bit obese. You have a little bit of flab on you. That's fine. But you still are able to take care of yourself, but you're not, you're not on either end of the extreme. But if being 600 pounds makes you happy, who am I to say, who am I to tell you don't live your happy life? If that's truly what it means for you.
You're such a Buddha now. You're such the Buddhist, the Buddhist monk of us
It's
all.
the hair.
I think there is truth in that, right? Like you should be able to live your life at least like in a way that doesn't hurt other people, right? And
What if it's hurting yourself? And
well, right.
And
So
nobody's saying anything about that.
the problem is it actually goes beyond that, and you silently are hurting other people, right? Like your choice is, I mean, your family, your friends who care about you, like you're probably shortening your life, right? Like the amount of additional health care you're probably going to need, like you're literally taking that away from someone else specifically because of your everyday choices that you're making. And look, I'm not saying that like everyone is the same, and I'm not saying everyone's propensity to obesity is the same. Like it's probably a spectrum, right? There's probably a lot of people who, for whatever genetic reason, it's more difficult to lose the weight. Like I believe that. I do. I also believe, to your point, Drew, that there is like two extremes, right? And both glorifying either extreme is not healthy, right? Like that probably hurts a lot of people. And I think specifically calling it out where you have the, using your terminology, Rod, like that toxic positivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're literally silencing, like how you actually feel, right? And I think that comes out quite a bit. And now that I'm seeing brands use this, right, it's becoming like a billboard. And I mean, I see you, Sean, over there, kind of your browser's
waiting.
getting real
He's
narrow. Yeah,
He's waiting.
He's ready.
yeah.
I'm just like Buddhist in this piece.
Yeah, go please.
No,
The
well,
reason
let
I'm
me
saying
finish
that
it.
is I see
Good.
both sides of it, but I'm really concerned about the negative detriment, like the detrimental thing that's happening in our society with that. And so I'll keep going with it, but I want to hear where your thoughts are, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, we're not like everything Andrew said, everything like Rod, even what you're saying is not wrong. What I think is wrong is on many points is that we've learned to be too silent and not to speak what is really true. And when you don't say anything, other people will step in and say something else, and they're going to start validating, speaking about the wrong thing, about making certain things okay. Because unfortunately, it's like, well, if nobody's saying anything, it must be okay. No, that's not really the case. Nobody is talking about that anymore. And so it's like, so it's becoming okay when, in fact, most people, I think, inside know that it's not okay. But to Andrew's point, it's like, it's their choice if that's what makes them happy. But what he's not saying is, yeah, that's your choice. That makes you happy. But that shit'll kill you. But it's your choice and it's making you happy. That's fine. It's not going to be mine. It's like, and I get it. And that's how I am too.
So
But
where's the line? Where's the line in your eyes?
In terms of what? Between what?
Basically, like where do you need to start speaking up?
I just think you need, like, everybody needs to be speaking up now. Like, it's not okay to be almost morbidly obese. And what that means for each individual is it's hard. Like, there's no metric. Like, you could look at a BMI, like Andrew said, everybody's going to be obese. I just think each individual, if you're, I'm going to say it, if you're fat. There's no, like, if you're a fat ass. If you think you're a fat ass, you're probably a fat ass to a certain extent. Like, I don't know how else to say it, but it's the truth. Like, I get fat sometimes. I feel it. And people know they are, but nobody says anything. So it's like, it goes back to our first conversation about having self-awareness and being honest. Like, I know people that are very aware that they're I like to say heavy set, they're overweight, I'm big. And they know that. Like, they're in certain places, like, my fat ass ain't going to fit in there. Like, they know. They're not proud of it. They're doing what they can to try to fix it. Their lifestyle, their choices, whatever that, their circumstances, like, makes it hard for them. And I get it. That's where I think people need to be. But when you're, like, promoting that it's okay, like, the whole fat positivity movement, and you're saying that it's okay to be this way, what does that say to, like, kids and everybody else before us? And I work in a school. And so what I think is, like, in the schools with parents, I get it, man. Like, eating healthy is so damn hard. It's expensive. It's a habit. And I get that when they're kids. But when they get to high school, that should change. Like, I think it should be a lot more strict in high school, because they're conscious at that point. When you're in, like, elementary school kids, because I watch them every day. Like, they try to experiment with nutritional stuff. And I'm the one eating the bananas and shit. I'm like, they have to take a fruit, otherwise they can't get their food. But you know what half these kids do? They throw it in the garbage as soon as they leave their area. So I have to follow them. I'm like, are you going to eat that banana? Don't lie. Because I know they're not. And I take it and I eat them. Because I know what they're doing. So, like, kids, and they're young, man, it's like, they're not going to do that. But when they get to high school, when they're conscious of shit, they have that freedom. They should be hitting home about, it's not okay to be over, but you also don't have to be that 5% body weight person, but
Yeah.
if you had to pick between the two, like, what is the better choice? Work to be healthier should be the message, versus becoming complacent and okay with the fact that you're extremely overweight, because that has consequences that sometimes you cannot reverse.
Well, I think you're touching on a couple things, right? So there is a level of privilege to be able to eat healthy,
Yeah.
right? There are things called food deserts, right? There are areas where getting an organic piece of fruit or vegetable, not possible. But, like, what you define as healthy, like, how do you define it, right? Like, to your guys' point, if you use something like BMI, I'm also obese, but, like, I would argue that all of us are probably more aware of our bodies and have a sense of our range, right? So how do you educate the masses, if you will, if you can use that word, to get a better sense of that self-awareness?
I don't know. I think, like, the government tries to put out, like, campaigns that educate people. I think, having just trying to think of, like, videos and images of, like, people within this age range. This is what your body type should be within a certain age range, right? You're not super ripped, but you're not super big. And, like, there should be campaigns that show things like that. Like, you're not showing the super, like, you're not showing a super fit person. It's just, like, on average, like, what does a person look like that's between this age and this age? And I'm sure, like, if you threw some AI stuff in there, you'll generate that person. And those should be the kind of images that go out for certain commercials or things like that. I don't know how to do that, but it's just something, like, they need this in this, like, people need visuals. I think you need to see that coupled with hearing it, because if not, you get flooded with, like, what I keep, whoever threw that Annie Thor's daughter, it's like you see these two extremes and they think it's one or the other. And I don't know, I think Andrew said that, but it's not. Like, there is a middle ground. Like, don't let yourself be this way. Just put Jabba the Hutt there. Like, don't be Jabba the Hutt. You know what I mean? And then don't be, I don't know, whoever like the slim 2% fat person is. Don't be that, because that's just, it's unrealistic. In some cases, it's not healthy, because a lot of those people that are super skinny, they're suffering from other diseases that you just don't know. A lot of them are anemic and they have all this other shit, like in between. And then logically, like, you want to be Jabba the Hutt, you can't move, or you want to be like this person? Like, what the hell's in between? And that's going to be different for everybody. And there's questions like, I don't know.
Drew, I think you want to say something, buddy.
Yeah.
I want to say that, no, we're talking about nutrition right now, right? This is, I would put that on the lines of like, like learning finances when you're in high school, right? You're not
Yeah.
learning it. They're not, there's hardly any schools out there teaching it to anybody in high school or younger. Um, it's not really until you are suffering from it, whether it be, if it was finances, if you're broke, you're going to try to figure out how your finances are. If you're unhealthy, you're going to try to figure out how nutrition is. But this is not something that they're going to teach in high school, because no one's going to listen. Kids aren't going to listen. Kids don't care. Like like Sean, just like what you're saying with the kids throwing away their fruit. It's because they don't care. And so it's hard to push this on people, because simple matter of fact is that's not something they're worried about until it is a problem. Like, I'm 30, how old am I? I'm 36, and I'm just now trying to figure out how calories work, about, all macros, how what I eat affects my weight. I'm just learning that now, and that's because I'm seeking that information. Me at 18 years old, I did not care about that. Me at 20 years old, I didn't care about that. Even when we were working out all the time, I was working out just so I can go drink beer. I did not care about any of the nutrition stuff. So it's hard to tell somebody, whether they're like morbidly obese, that, hey, you need to get your weight right. They probably don't care.
Well, the thing you brought up about seeking the information, I think that's like one of the hardest parts. I feel like a lot of us know about that because of where we came from, right? The gym environment, the programs that popped up, right? Like paleo, whatever, keto, all that stuff. I used to work in an endocrinology office. We dealt a lot with gestational diabetes. So pregnant women would come in, they'd find out that they're diabetic, maybe temporarily, maybe permanent. And then I would hear, I could hear the doctor talking about like nutrition plans with the patients coming in. And I'm literally, and this was the time when we were at the gym, and I'm like listening to it. I could hear him talking, and I'm like, isn't this stuff common sense? It's not. It's not. Like, the stuff she was saying seemed so basic, because, like, like I said, like, we talked about that shit in class or whatever programs we were going through. But some people were really like devastated that they couldn't eat bread anymore, or rice, or what it would do to their sugars and stuff. So yeah, I guess there is like a lot of education. I guess it really depends on the people. I worked in Mountain View, so the people coming in were mostly Asian, South Asian people. So you look at the diets, right? And that's like staple diets would be like rice. How do you take that out for some people? It's hard, and I feel like a lot of it might be culturally too. Kind of what you were talking about, Gerald, with the what was it? The food deserts, getting quality foods. It just doesn't exist in some places, and it's hard.
And yeah, so I think it is difficult, right? It's a difficult problem, and it's like, it's nothing we're going to solve here and now on this podcast.
Yeah, we can.
But I think it's worth talking about, because like, I actually think the answer is modeling, right? It has to start from somewhere. And if it starts from here, right, and us just talking about it, like, that that to me is a useful form of energy, right? Like we are discussing something that I think more people need awareness on. And it's not to be like, oh, I'm on my soapbox. It's more that, like, to Drew's point, like if you don't hear it from somewhere, if there isn't a catalyst somewhere, you're not going to start, right? Go ahead,
well,
Rod.
to your point, like I'm sure you guys are going to raise your kids and instill these values as they're growing up, right? Because we all, at some point, learned it through somewhere. I'm assuming you guys learned it at the gym. I toyed with my body at the gym to figure out what worked for me and what didn't work for me. So
Yeah.
that's all the experimenting we did. And yeah, I can absolutely pass that knowledge to somebody. And back to your point, when we were doing CrossFit, I was like, everybody should do CrossFit. Everybody needs to at least learn how to move their body, eat right, and do XYZ. But
Yep.
Well,
okay, so here's something that I learned. Okay, so let me back up. I got a degree in exercise biology, and basically everyone who was in my cohort, like everyone getting the same degree, they were all varsity athletes. I'm not a varsity athlete, right? But it was really interesting to see how people took care of themselves, right? And what I mean by this is you're sitting in class, right? And most people in most classrooms are sitting with like a huge venti Starbucks with, like 80 grams of sugar. It's literally like 10 donuts in liquid form, right? And in these classes, like these dudes were eating like straight up chicken breast, and it's like, oh, I'm just downing like this gallon of water because I have, a 10-hour, whatever, 10-mile swim that I got to go do after this, right? And the reason I bring that up is like you're just surrounded by people who are doing something similar and you just pick up on it, right? And so for me at an early age, I saw that and it stuck with me, right? Because for me, I'm like, hey, I kind of want to look like that swimmer. That guy's freaking jacked, right? And I'm not saying that that's why I did that that degree, but it stuck with me because it was a form of modeling, right? Like my parents did not model that type of eating or that type of activity, right? Like you're gonna be working out this much per week, like whatever. Like I didn't get that from my parents. I think if we surround ourselves with, they don't even have to be like-minded. It's just like you're at the park, you're doing your thing, Drew, you got your 106-pound kettlebell. People start coming up to you. They're like, yo, what are you doing? Right. And then it's a conversation. And I think the reason I'm bringing that up is like, I think people need to be the catalyst, right? I don't actually think that government saying you should is going to motivate anyone. I think it's like a grassroots thing, right? I think it's the people around us. It's like your family, your friends. It's like, and sure, that might come off as like annoying and preachy, but at some point, Drew, like to what you said, they're going to be like, fuck, I feel terrible. And Drew looks like he's doing pretty well for himself. And he's 20 years older than me. Like maybe I should go talk to him. Right. And that to me, I think is a quiet form of leadership, right? It's not I'm up on my soapbox and you need to listen to me sort of thing. It's leading from the front. Drew, you look like you want to say something, man.
Oh, I didn't have anything to add.
Oh, let
So-
me say something on that government thing that you mentioned. I was just in Singapore a few months ago. Yeah, it was kind of surprising. They some hotels you pull out the whatever, it's like, oh, this is free. And I noticed there's like a sticker label on each package and it pretty much grades the food. It's like, oh, you're a piece of shit if you eat this. Like, oh, put that down. Oh, better grade. I'm gonna eat this one. So that's a form of the government be like, hey, don't make a better choice.
It's funny you mentioned that. So my wife put me onto this app. It's called Yuka, Yuka. and it's an app where basically you can scan the barcode of pretty much any food, and it's like it's a nonprofit. Like you can donate to them, but it's like a project that will, to your point, grade the food, and it'll break out like why it got the grade. So sometimes like really healthy looking food, organic everything, blah 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 blah. Like you look at the packaging, seems amazing, and then you open it up and it says like 10 out of 100, like terrible, and it's because it's got all these additives. You click into it and it'll actually explain this additive has been shown to destroy gut biome.
Oh shit.
Or this additive has been linked to brain cancer, right? It's like all this stuff, and it like such a good, easy way to really get a sense of like what you're putting in your body, right? I think it's hard when you are relying on packaging where they say it's organic, it's cage free.
Marketing, man.
This is it. I mean, it's all marketing, right? Like this kale was grass fed. What are you talking about? This kale is grass fed. What are you talking about? Yes, of course it's cholesterol free, you fuckers. Like
I saw some almond milk that said that. It said plant-based almond milk. I was like, isn't it supposed to? All right, it's a tree. I get it.
That like infuriates me. That makes me so fucking angry when I see that. And it's like, I get it, right? It's technically true. But if you don't know that, like you don't have, you're a single mom, a single dad, you have 3 kids, or, whatever, like you're an older person who, was never educated in that. And all of a sudden you're getting thrown this marketing that like, this is healthy for you. Like, of course these people are getting obese and sicker and, getting dementia and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, sorry, Sean, you want to say something?
I don't know. I mean, I just think like you threw a lot of words out there. Like, is this organic? Is this have this additive? And I just want to balance it out a little bit. And, because like there are people, I guess the whole food desert thing, I think if we compare it to like what, like I think us on here have access to, then yeah, some areas can be considered a desert. But at the end of the day, I think there isn't a place in the United States where you don't have access to, I'm just going to say fresh vegetables and stuff. I'm not going to say organic or whatever, like just fresh vegetables. I don't think there's a place in the United States that you really can't get fresh shit from if you really wanted to get it.
You're right. I feel like the food desert Gerald was talking about, some places rely, they don't have like Safeway or like a Lucky's. They have to go to like a liquor store or like a bodega to buy a head of broccoli.
Well, if it's convenient, I mean, I'm sure like, anyway, I could be wrong, because I know that was a big thing. And I looked it up and I find some places, and I saw some of the things that they would consider why they would call it a food desert. I get it, but it's not a desert. It's not like they have to drive 8 hours to go and get something. It's not right down the street. I get it. But my point though with that is, where was I going with that? How you talked about the organics. I think I think in certain communities scares people because they equate healthy eating to like foods that are organic, that are non-GMO, that have all the buzzwords. It's just like either you're like this 5% fat person or 5% body fat person. If not, then just be the obese person. So eating healthy is like the same thing. Either you're eating all organic, non-GMO, all these things, or you might as well just eat McDonald's all day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and so the messaging is like, you may not always get organic, whole grain, grass fed, but the point is eat as fresh as possible, as much as possible. You know what I mean? It's like eat meat versus like something that's processed. Eat some kind of vegetables versus something that's, again, processed or blended with something else. That's really, if you do that more, you'll be on the right track. And then when your resources are better, then go for things that are a little bit more pure. But in the meantime, eat as fresh as possible. I think that's like the general
To
takeaway.
your point, Sean, I've always felt like when it comes to eating and restrictions and whatever, quantity should
Yeah,
be first. Quantity meaning
for
macros,
sure.
calories. And then when you get
Yeah,
that dialed in, quality should be next because you want
yeah,
quality foods within your quantity, right?
yeah. Even what's funny is when I was when I was like college, even before college, I was broke. But I was working out. I remember when I was in high school and just like going into junior college, I couldn't afford shit. Like I had like $3 for a whole day, man. But I used to have to eat at McDonald's. But I would get. They used to sell a side salad at McDonald's. I used to buy that with chicken nuggets. Like that was
The shaky
my.
salad, right?
The shaky
Yeah, they used to
salad.
have a
Yeah.
salad, and they don't sell that little salad. You get 2 little cherry tomatoes, and that was like a good little balance because that's what I could afford. But I would buy like their little chicken sandwiches, but then I'd get a salad. Sometimes I would buy 2 of them because then it'd be like that felt clean to me. So you can do it as long as the messaging to the world is that, like, whatever you have, like, make with what you have and be as healthy as you can with what you have. Don't be complacent. Don't settle for shit. You know what I mean?
Where do you think you found that want or need to eat vegetables or a salad, especially from McDonald's?
Being around people that have that mindset to want to be
No,
healthy
but like how young would
rather
you
than
say
being,
for you personally?
yeah, this was like in high school, like before I even got out of high school.
So
I
your
was a
friends
little,
all wanted to work out and be healthy?
well, no, they could afford to be healthy. And I was like, I couldn't. So when I wasn't with them, I realized like, okay, I started getting used to eating salads and shit, but a salad can cost just as much as a steak
Yeah.
sometimes. So I'm like, man, I can't do that. And so
I'll
like
add,
a
I'll add
lot of
to that.
people was out of necessity versus choice. But as I got older and things got a little better for me, it became choice. But sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
I would say that there is a little bit of a gatekeeping for healthier foods. Today, I spent $20 on a salad.
Yeah.
I could have spent half of that on a sandwich and just been as full or even more full. But it's I can afford the salad. I can afford the $20 salad. It's not great every time, but at least I'm getting a little more out of it versus probably other than just like the food to eat. I'm getting a little more out of it. Like it feels like I'm getting eating something a little more healthier, doing something better for myself. Um, Not entirely happy about it, but it's a trade off. But there is that barrier, and it is a
Yeah.
financial barrier.
For sure.
100%. 100%. And it's the education, right? Because it's the association that you've made with a salad. Because I guarantee you, there's people who look at that salad and it's like, I am not getting anything out of that, right? Like, I would rather go get 4 Big Macs or whatever $20 gets you now at probably not even that. At
One and a
McDonald's. I
half.
heard the prices went up. Inflation's fucking crazy. But like, my point being that in their mind, the association is that 2 or 3 Big Macs or whatever it is a better thing for my body because I'm getting protein or whatever, right? Like they've made up a story in their mind that, or at least I'll be full, or it'll last me longer or, whatever it is, right? And, maybe that is like a socioeconomic thing. Maybe that's partly looped into that whole topic of like the education component, right? And I think one thing like I'm always curious about is like, I think Rod was trying to ask this, but where did you guys get it? Like, I told you for me, like I exercise biology in college, right? Rod, you were saying you're tweaking your body while we were at the gym.
Yeah,
Sean, you
I'd
said
say
you
mine's
were,
100% from the gym.
I see. Okay. How did you get yourself to the gym, right? Like, what was the thing that made you step into that gym?
I was in nursing school and I remember thinking like, we were actually learning health in nursing school, and I was eating like a piece of shit during that time. So I was like, oh, I want to do something physical, and I wanted to get into jiu-jitsu. And I did actually, after nursing school, do one jiu-jitsu class. And surprisingly, do you guys remember that CrossFit gym that I talked about that Jen went to? Same
Yeah.
gym. It
Yeah.
was the
yeah.
same gym
Yeah,
that she went to. But anyway, I did one jujitsu class. I hurt my ankle and I was outside throwing up and outside of the car. And I was like, maybe that was too extreme for me. And then I ran into Kevin's videos, Coach Kevin. And then I was like, what's this? All right, looks similar. Let's try it. And then that was it.
Why did you want to do jujitsu though? Like,
Well, UFC
what
was
was the
coming up
thing
at
that
that
was
time, and I was like, this looks fun. And that was it.
okay?
Yeah.
So it was being modeled to you from TV,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the
Okay.
MMA, right? I didn't want to get into
Mhm.
striking or anything. I thought jujitsu would be a little bit more like, not lead black guys and stuff, especially if I was trying to be a nurse. So yeah, I tried that. It was actually, I was Googling one night, and then I remember Sunnyvale, some gym in Sunnyvale had like CrossFit classes in their jiu-jitsu classes on the side. And I was like, wait, I think I saw this word CrossFit somewhere before. And yeah, it was from Kevin.
It's interesting. Yeah, because I'm trying to get at like what the catalyst was. So like, what about you, Drew? Like, what brought you into the gym?
Let's see. So throughout high school, throughout like, elementary school, middle school, high school, I was never into sports. I could care less about sports. I wasn't working out. Uh, it wasn't until I was like 20 something. My brother had been doing CrossFit for a couple months before that, and he told me if you want to come out, just talk to track. Then I kind of rolled over about it, and I think I, I think I know. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was thinking like, man, I have a flat ass. Maybe I should go work out. So I think that's what started it.
So you had one long back.
Yeah.
Long
Pancake.
lower back syndrome.
Pancake butt.
That's awesome. So, I mean, did you see something in your brother? Like, did you see his body change, or did you see like his energy change? Like, what?
Well,
What?
my brother was if he was into sports, he was on the football team. He was working out, and that modeling was there, but I wasn't exactly following it. Um, at least not in my teens. Um, but I guess just seeing myself physically in a mirror, that was kind of like, that was the catalyst. And then like the things I've seen my brother do before, it kind of like, one and one added together. And it's like, maybe I should go work out.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I don't know, Sean, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not. I mean, my story is almost the same. Except I have not my blood brother, but very close to me. But yeah, no sports stuff. Didn't care about work. I did work out for a little bit in high school. I think that's when I turned 18. I was old enough to go to the clubs. I need to like get swolled up for that. But then I fell off. But then I was dating this girl for a little bit. And then, we let's go to the gym. So we were working out at 24-hour fitness. And then a close friend of mine, my brother, CrossFit 209 dudes, he was just starting that. He was like, try this workout. So we tried it. And then he started doing CrossFit. And then the ex at the time knew track and told track reached out like, hey, I'm starting this CrossFit thing at the park. And then the rest was just history with that. And that's what kind of got me. So if anything, it's a big thank you to track and what he did. And he got me into this whole health thing. And it really instilled just being healthy in general, not to be perfect, but to be conscientious of just your day to day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what drove me into it, man.
So I think like what I'm hearing, and our stories are actually somewhat similar. The commonality really is that there was a catalyst, right? There was someone that we knew, whether it was like a first or second degree separation, like there was something where you're kind of like, man, I am motivated by that, right? It's moving. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like I wanted to say it's moving away from the negative and toward the positive, but like, I don't know. Like, and I'm trying to rack my brain about how to do a better job of that. I think that's one thing that I actually feel very passionate about. Like my family, they taught to me about like health stuff and like, oh, like always looking for tips. And like, I think that's cool. I take that as a point of pride. I'm not saying I'm like the most educated or whatever, but like, even if I can push my family to do a little bit, when I say my family, like my cousins, my aunts and uncles, even my mom, right? Like my mom, I'm very in her stuff about like, hey, like the more you work out, the longer you're going to live. That gives you more time with your grandkids, right? And I'm just like very clear about that. And it's like, if you're not going to do it for yourself, like do it for your grandkids, and it's, maybe it's a little heavy handed, but I don't know. I think it seems to work. One thing that I have found, like specifically for my mom. So my mom is 65, 66, something like that. She has a trainer who is like specifically for like that age group. And it's really cool because he, deals with clientele who like probably they didn't really work out very much, but for whatever reason, they're now at a gym, and they want to educate themselves. So his whole thing is actually kind of like tracks, but it's for older demographic. It's more about like, how do you put on lean muscle mass? How do you learn to take care of your body in terms of like, doing the stretches like that we were talking about, right? And then even like very simple tactical things, like how do you properly get out of bed? Like, how do you guys get out of bed?
During the week or during the week?
Anytime.
In a panic.
I'll tell you right now, for me, I throw the covers off and I rock myself up. Like that's literally how I get myself up. How do you guys do it?
Feels like a Turkish get up or something when I get up. Yeah, but during the week, man, I'm like Cosmo Kramer sometimes, depending on the time. Like, oh shit, gotta go.
Who is Cosmo Kramer?
Like sliding through the door, like, whoa, time to go.
What is Cosmo Kramer?
Seinfeld.
Who is? Oh, yeah, I'm not a Seinfeld guy. Clearly.
I think
Drew, Rod, how do you guys
out.
get it?
I think I slide out. Well, because we have the kids in the bed, right? So
yeah,
see.
Sometimes I can sit straight up, right? But most of the time I don't want to disturb the kids. I don't want to wake them up, especially if I'm waking up early. So I'll kind of just like slide out of the bed.
Yeah, okay. What about you, Rod?
Same. Throw the sheets off.
Do you slide off the end?
No, I just kick my feet up and then just sit up with it.
Yeah. Like I literally like both feet up and I like pull myself up.
Well, that's usually
Undertaker.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, that's usually like when you realize like you did like a hardcore like sit up day a day or two ago, and then you're like
your abs are
somebody
dead.
punches.
Like, oh, I'm gonna cramp.
That's
so
when you realize.
One thing that he talks about, like he literally says, like you're supposed, if you're like a back sleeper, you go over on your side, right, and then you curl your legs, and then you push yourself up with your arm, so that you're into a seated position. So that way you're not like putting pressure on your lower back. Like there's never a point of like failure during that movement, right? Like you're tight the whole way. And like, I just take that for granted. And the reason I share that story is like, my mom has a lot of privilege to be able to afford someone who can show her all of these things as she shifts to this next point in her life, right? This next stage in her life. And I think proximity to a trainer like that and the community that he has sort of fostered, man, it has helped the way she thinks about fitness and health so much. Like, man, it was like pulling fucking teeth to get my mom to go to like the gym or like eat right. Like I get my snacking from my mom. Like my mom, like she's got a fucking pantry just full of like chocolate chips, like whatever. And she's like, oh, I was so good today, and she'll like sit down like 11 o'clock at night watching TV and just plow through a whole bag of chips. And I get that from her, but like until she had a community kind of like what we have here, like very grateful for it, to have some sort of accountability. No, it didn't matter, right? She's like, no one's watching. And so like she would seesaw. And my point with bringing that up is like how, and obviously we're not going to solve everything, with this podcast, but like, how do you build like a community that keeps people honest and accountable and motivated? I think that's like such a hard bar, but I think that is actually what will get people to look at the body positivity movement for what it is. Personally, that's like my thought. What do you guys think?
Well, I to your point, I've always thought, like I said earlier, everybody should at least try CrossFit or something along those lines. It's but
I do think,
but
man.
it's
I think
but it's the same. It's like, how do you get people in? How do you get people through the door? And there was a brief time when we shifted over from the on ramp to the personal training format, and
that's right.
And there was like a sales trainer that came in just to kind of teach us how to talk to people, and that was like, I don't know, Gerald, you probably like, oh, easy tricks. I do that shit all day long. But I was like, listening to it, I'm like, oh fuck, I wish I knew more about this. I wish I knew you can actually practice it and apply it. And it was literally just talking to random people in the grocery store and stuff. That cold connection. But obviously in the point of making a sale, that was what it was. But like Sean, you talked about talking to people in the gym, and you don't want to be that guy to be like, hey, your deadlift, let's fix that. But at the same time, I feel like you could easily bridge that connection with anything. Just like I don't know. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but if I were to do that, if I wanted to go to someone who was doing a deadlift like crazy, what was that one? The sandwich. You approach them with something nice to say, like a compliment, and then you have your critique.
Yeah.
That's your meat
In the middle.
and then you end it with like, oh, but hey, you're doing great though. I mean, I naturally talked like that when I was in coach mode, and that's how I would try to correct people with that sandwich. And I mean, that could be one way to spark a conversation if you wanted to make that catalyst with a friend or family member or whatever, right? Having the meat be the meat. Right. That's
one of the sayings that's out there, man. There's that dude. I don't know if it's that guy, Jordan Peterson, somebody, but he basically says it's like, if you want to help change and solve the world's problems, right? Start with just changing yourself and how you approach the problem when you see it on a micro scale. And that's what I said earlier. It's like, if somebody is obese and they're asking you about shit, don't be scared to be honest about what you think about that, because that's how you're going to help change. That's my point. Don't be scared of how they're going to think of you, or whether or not they're going to judge you, or they're not going to like you, or you're going to hurt their feeling. Like that's what I think is the issue, is like society in the world. Like we just got scared to like just have conversations that used to be somewhat normal. We just can't do it anymore. And so like working out and everything is so sensitive to people that needs to get fixed. I don't know how to fix that, but the world has definitely got a lot more sensitive to just words and how you say something, and whether you put an S or take the S off. Like just, it's so crazy that, yeah. Cause like, you could have, like you said, we could have this conversation with one person, and you could help that one person because you decided to be brave, not knowing the outcome. Like this person could beat your ass for the mere fact that you're saying that. Or you could save that person's life and they'll be thanking you for being so honest. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. I've gotten more thank yous than I've gotten ass beatings. And the way I'm talking right now, like I put myself in positions where I get a little worried, but I also know that I learned how to say things respectfully because I understand people are sensitive.
Well, I was thinking that the whole time you were saying that, I was like, I feel like you have to have the skill to be able to talk to somebody. Like how to approach somebody and how to be sensitive about it and in a way that actually reaches them versus being defensive.
Yeah. And one thing like I learned, like, and it's a sales thing too, or if you're like in a meeting with people and you're going to bring up something, it's like always offering like, hey, do you mind if I offer a suggestion or can I say something? It might be controversial. You might, you're premising it with that expectation that I want to say something because out of good intention, and it might hurt. It might be something that you might take a certain way, but just feel free to correct me or say something. But at least you're getting that permission. And then to your point at the gym, I don't correct people about the deadlift. I did correct like these two big black dudes that were next to me lifting weights. They're talking about cooking sweet potatoes and shit. I did go in there and talk about that because that was easy.
Yeah.
I was like, they were talking about, man, I don't know how to cook them all healthy and shit. All I have, they were talking. So then I did go in there and say that. I was like, you have an air fryer? I was like, man, I cut those things up and just throw smoked paprika and olive oil and a bunch of garlic salt and throw them in that air fryer. They're like, what? Word?
But see,
and it was a cool conversation.
But see, that's because you were like very confident in talking about that.
Well, yeah, not like correcting like workouts, but yeah, like the cooking and stuff. I was like, yeah, that was an easy in.
Yeah.
That's
But
how you
Yeah,
avoid
it's-
the
it's
ass beating.
yeah. But I do
it's
like
hard,
come
right?
in with the like, almost asking permission. But I think as us having this conscious conversation, again, being brave to like share exactly what you're feeling. If you think something is not good for somebody, don't be scared to say that shit to them. Like say it, because they could die tomorrow and you didn't say anything. That's how my mind is. But
Yeah.
also figure out how to say it in a way where you're being kind and understanding that the world is sensitive.
I think that's right. It's just difficult to scale that, right? It's difficult to scale going up to every single person and being like, hey, like this might be controversial, but like I want to tell you something.
No, I'm not saying you go up to
Well,
people.
I know.
I'm saying when the opportunity arises, you do it.
My point. Yeah, I get it. I
You're
get it. I think
manipulating my speech, Gerald.
what I'm saying is like, I think it would help people more to pull them in to the conversation by having it, getting it out there, and letting the draw to it happen, right? And it implicitly gives you permission to have that conversation because they are now approaching you with it. If that makes sense.
If you use that approach now, aren't you just waiting? You're hoping that people are going to come in and like do that, versus like if you're conscious of it,
Well,
you're looking for those opportunities, and those opportunities happen all the time. You're in an elevator, you're waiting in line, you're at the hospital sitting next to somebody and they're talking to you about something. Like there are opportunities that come up, and it's up to the individual person to take advantage of those opportunities when they come, and to be so goddamn honest as if you're gonna die tomorrow. And that's kind of how I am, where it's like, don't ask me how I'm doing, because if we're both sitting there and you ask me how I'm doing and I'm having a shitty day, I'm gonna dump it out there. But if I see you don't want to listen to me anymore, I understand that too. But it's like, it's that kind of level of honesty and realness, It's like,
yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I agree. No, I agree that the honesty and the level of conversation should be a layer deeper, right? It's not like you got to be and very honest with it. Otherwise, it's not useful. I think like in terms of how sticky it is, if I'm listening to all three of you guys, the reason it's stuck with you is you were the one seeking it out, right? Someone didn't go seeking you out to go do this thing. You were actually like, I want that for myself, right? And then that is the catalyst that I'm looking to spark, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I mean. Like yeah, I think we're on the same page. And yeah, like the person does have to be seeking that. And that's what I mean. Like if somebody voluntarily asks a question
Yeah.
and your response might be controversial or somewhat touchy, don't be scared to give it to them because they asked for it. And you're just being truthful and honest about it. That's what I mean by that. And I think you're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Drew, did you want to say something? I see you over there.
I think the environment definitely plays a part. For example, in a typical global gym, I would have less confidence going up to somebody and saying, "Hey, this is why your deadlift is not good right now. This is why you're hurting yourself." I would have less confidence in doing that. Whereas when I'm at a jiu-jitsu gym and say it's like a brand new white belt, I have more confidence in telling them, "Hey, do this instead. This is why you're struggling trying to do this technique. You should, put your hand here, put your foot here." It's a different environment because like person deadlifting, they're in the gym too. They're doing their own thing. They've probably been doing this for a while. They may not want your information. Whereas in a jiu-jitsu gym, especially somebody brand new, doesn't know what they're doing, they're willing to take on that information. So I guess it kind of plays at a part where you got to know your audience.
Yeah.
Sure. Context matters.
Yeah.
Context matters a lot.
So what if,
For
say for this example, Drew, that same thing, you're in the gym deadlifting on a platform next to somebody, that person goes up to you and says, "Yo, what's up, man? I saw you doing deadlifts. What do you think about what I'm doing?" And you've been watching them the whole time. Then what do you do? That's what I'm saying.
Then you give him the information that he's looking for.
Yeah.
Even if it's shitty.
If it's shitty, you say, "Hey."
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like,
they're seeking you. They're seeking you for the information.
Yeah, that's what we said earlier. It's like but that's what I mean by I think people are just not honest. I'm glad we're on the same page with that, but it's just, you got to be conscious of that and like be willing to give your time to people that are willing to take their time to ask you a question. Because a lot of times we give people short answers for the sake of not hurting their feelings, or we genuinely are in a rush, but either way, that's how I think we contribute to the world, is when somebody asks you a question, they deserve an honest answer for the little bit of time that you have. And the more conscious we are with that, I think you start changing the world with people.
To your point, there is, it's a two-way street. It takes confidence for you, the one with the knowledge, to pass it along to somebody, but it's also on the other person's part to have the confidence to ask you, "What am I doing wrong? What do I saw you doing it this way. Can you teach me how to do that?" It's two ways. It's two ways.
Well, to add to your point, Andrew, the person asking you for something, they have humbled themselves enough to approach a stranger and ask for help. And I feel like in that scenario, they're willing to accept whatever the hell you say, right? Hopefully, you spit on the tip a little bit. But it's like, ease it in, right? But yeah, those little connections, those little connections, are absolutely like, they're awesome.
I think it's like you're speaking of like vulnerability, right?
Right, absolutely.
Like that person was willing to be vulnerable.
If they're approaching you,
it's not normal for men.
True. I guess I
agree with that. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it takes longer for guys. It
It's
takes
scary.
longer for guys to be vulnerable.
Right.
It's there's a lot of ego,
Huge.
or it's like for whatever reason, right? Like there's this self-image that I gotta like portray.
And sorry, go ahead, Gerald.
No, I was just gonna say I agree with you. I think that vulnerability and like I think we're circling around it, right? Like I think how do you create an environment where it is safe enough that people can then approach you so that they feel like, hey, like I will learn the thing that I need to learn because it's being modeled, right? And I think that is the point. I think that like we finally got there. I think it is like, how do you decrease that barrier? How do you drop that? How do you open the raincoat, show it all, right?
That's a different fucking rabbit hole, man.
It is.
You know what that rabbit hole is? I think it segues into a topic that we kind of plugged in, was like, what are the impacts of like not just AI stuff, but what are the impacts of just this crazy growth of social media on society's thinking? Because I think that's a big part of it. It's like you're competing against that. Like, how can somebody learn to be vulnerable and be vulnerable when they see the world through social media and everybody's greatest post, which is probably not even real? Like, that's their competition now. And so to be compared against what they're seeing. So if they're like trying to be like, how do I build a better body at the gym? And their feed is fucking playing on that feeling, what they're comparing themselves to is so shot. Like, how the hell can they go in the gym and be vulnerable when like that's what they're being fed?
Well, here's the crazy
an uphill
part.
battle.
Here's the crazy part, right? Like, and we might have touched on this a little bit, but like the algorithm learns you, right? It learns what you're looking at. It learns very quickly the things that you are hovering 2 seconds longer on versus just scrolling past. And so like you're very quickly fed the thing that is whatever triggering your dopamine. And so the bifurcation, right? Like the change in what you're being fed will happen very quickly. And then all of a sudden, like you, Rod, are looking at a completely different thing than I'm looking at. And then all of a sudden, how we view the world is completely different. So how do these two people then have a conversation if they view the world so differently because their IG algorithm is just like two different universes, right? And so like, I think this is a very deep rabbit hole that we can go into.
Here's how you do it. The companies will never allow this, but if they can just auto set that every time you turn your phone off, it clears your cache, your data, your cookies, everything. It dumps it. So every time you get back on, it's like from scratch. It's like every day your feed will change because it automatically dumps everything.
Yeah,
I don't know
they
if
lose
that's
all their money. No, they would lose all their money.
But you can do that manually.
No, you can't, because that like
no,
okay.
like you can
we're getting into the
phone.
weeds, but like,
can't you? Like you can go on your phone and
you probably
clear
can,
it all manually.
but they're pulling all that data into their environment, so they already know everything about you. Even if you're clearing all that shit on your phone, they know all that stuff.
It only takes that little trigger that you get all that stuff.
Totally, 100%.
So
100%.
even if you're using VPNs and say you're not logged into anything, I guess it's if you're logged in, right?
It's you're logged in. Yeah, exactly. I mean, anyway,
I forgot.
That's a very deep rabbit hole.
Well, what if, like, these are crazy thoughts, man. But I just, like, what if they just had like a fucking, not a break, but a detox day where, like, they just shut this shit down across the globe. You know, like only certain sites are accessible. It's almost like parental controls. Like,
I think we should go here.
Instagram.
Let's go here. Yeah.
It shuts it all off.
Let's make a right turn here, because I think this is actually very, very important.
It's related to nutrition. It's related to all.
Yeah, it is 100%.
It feeds our mind. It's like it's the little monster under the bed that no matter what we say as humans is gonna fucking come in and just take over everything we're saying, which is, as long as your phone is in their hand.
I think I told you guys this. I deleted the IG app, so it's no longer on my phone. And like, if I need to go on it just to like check, what the chats have been saying, right? I literally have to go to my laptop, open it up, go into a browser, type in my username and password, and I'll be on it for like 10 minutes, like maybe every other day, or maybe even more than that. Like the reason I did that is because I realized I was spending so much time just like mindlessly scrolling. I probably saved myself, like, no joke, an hour, hour and a half each day of just like mindlessly scrolling. And like, I will be the first to admit it. I would sit on the shitter and I would be like just going. And I would get up and my legs would be
Numb.
numb. So numb.
Funny.
That's how you
Like,
get hemorrhoids, man.
both my thighs had these like red dots from
Your
my
elbows.
elbows. I love that you
The
guys know exactly what I'm
indentations.
talking about. I love that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But I don't know, like, what is your guys' relationship to social media now? Like, how do you guys manage it?
I don't
Terribly.
give a shit about it, man. Like, I don't. But again, I think it's anyway, man.
No, I want to hear. I want to hear how you guys, like, are you guys still on it? Have you guys switched platforms? You know, like, what do you guys saying?
I feel like I'm less on Facebook. Most of my Facebook is like video games and shoes. I feel like I don't impulsively buy as much shit because I'm not feeding myself the shoe algorithm. Yeah, Instagram, it's like whatever. That's mostly all I use now anyway.
How much time would you say you spend on Instagram?
Shit, I don't know. 2 to 3 hours
A day?
Yeah, maybe that's on the
Where-
shy side.
Sorry to blow you up there,
No
man.
worries.
Hope you're not. What about you, Drew?
I'm definitely on Facebook less. If it wasn't for Facebook Marketplace, I probably wouldn't even have Facebook. Sometimes it's nice to hear what other people, like other like friends or like, acquaintances have going on. And on Instagram, I think that 2-3 hour mark is like accumulated throughout the day. I guess it would, I guess it would add up to that, like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, or like you said, if you're taking a dump, 30 minutes, just that doom scrolling. It is something I want to do less of, and sometimes it's my way to connect with what's going on in the world too, at least with regards to my interest. Like if it's jujitsu stuff, I'm only updated about it through Instagram, and then most of the other time it's just sending memes to you guys, which I'm just finding. Which I just remembered what Gerald, you said you had deleted your Instagram, and I remember you said that. So there's been some times where I'm thinking like I said that meme, but he never said anything.
That's why.
Yeah, it takes a long time for me to like, and the UI on the desktop is not good. So like sometimes I'll scroll up and it'll show me the same thing that I just looked at, and then I'm kind of like, all right, fuck it, and I close it. So I give up, and I miss like a lot of the stuff that you say, but like I try to like at least just get caught up a little bit to see if there's anything like important that I missed. But that addictiveness is not there because the experience is like not as good. And it was like an easy way for me to like break up with that. And I don't know, give it a try. Give it a try. Cause it's like, if it's something you want to do to like decrease the amount of time that you're on it, having to pull out your laptop and like literally log in every single time as opposed to just like, oh, Face ID, click it, and like, boom, you're getting your dopamine hit. It's different. Yeah. I don't know.
They do
It
make
worked for
that
me.
device. I think I've seen it, and I've seen it advertised on my Instagram called a brick, where it's like a little dot. You can place it wherever you want, and you just take your phone and you tap it, and it basically bricks your phone for until you tap it again. So like, say you can put it in you can put this brick in another room. You can brick your phone, and then you can go take care of your work or whatever you want. And when you're ready to go back, I'm off the phone.
Isn't that fascinating that we need like
It's weird.
that
Yeah, but it's kind of like a
level?
forced. It's kind of like
Yeah.
forced level of teaching. But
It's
for
that
this day
like
and age, I mean, I guess it seemed
it's so
appropriate.
addictive. It is so addictive. Like there's literally nothing else that I have been exposed to where I'm that addicted to it. Like I know people have addictive personalities, people get, hooked on whatever, right? Like I can binge drink and then like not have another drink for 8 months. Or like, you know, I'll admit it, I did some extracurriculars and, a lot of people they're like, oh man, I need to just keep it going, and I'll literally do it and be like, I'm good. But the phone, man, the phone and Instagram, like I was spending a lot of time on that shit.
That shit goes back to me. It goes back to the first day, and I want to say I feel bad for you guys, but man, it's like Drew, you weren't part of like we were having the conversation about the finance day. We're like, oh, I don't want to spend money on the shit, but it's like that's part of it though. If you have time to sit on your ass and stare at your phone, I get it in the toilet situation. You're just kind of sitting there. You're just waiting for time. But if you're at home in your own house and you're not taking a shit, but you have so much like, there used to be this saying like, get a life. Like you need to get a life. You need to get a life outside of that. If you have time to sit there and just, that means you got to go do something with your hand. Like, and sometimes if you have the means, you got to go spend some money and buy something that you wouldn't normally do. Tinker with things, like get something that's going to involve you doing something so that you don't have, because I think you have so much downtime when you're doing that. That means you're sitting there and you have nothing else to do, or you're just waiting for your next, like, honey, go get this. All right, I'm going to go. Like, that's what most people are doing. And you're like, no, like, find your time and do some shit. Like, literally, that's the solution. Like, if you got to figure out something to do with your hands, you got to figure out something to do that's going to get you away from this fucking thing. Like my rule is like, when I'm out, like I go out to dinner with people, I almost never take this thing out. Like, you go out to drinks with people, I put that shit away and I don't even look at it. And I try to like, even when I'm waiting in line, if that line is short, I get it. If you're at the DMV or something, if you're unfortunate to have to go there, I get it. I'm going to look at that shit. But if I'm just standing in line, I'm not going to take that thing out. And it's like 10 minutes, I won't take it out. There's just like things you got to train your brain to do. But it goes back to the other thing where like I think just the world needs to learn how to just be simple and content with what's around you. Because like you said, Joe, man, that shit is addictive. Don't get me wrong, dude. Like it's fucking, they know how to work that dopamine. And to me, it's almost like you want to see everybody else's life that is not yours. Why not make it yours? Stop getting the dopamine hits off of everybody else's highlights and like make your own.
Well,
it's like make your own damn highlights.
to your point, Sean, when
Just a thought, man. I don't know. I don't want to sound all crazy and shit. But
last fall I was in
You do.
I was in Southeast Asia for 3 weeks, and I was managing my I had like an eSIM on my phone, so I had very limited data, which meant if I was outside, I wasn't on any social media. I literally saved my data for Google Maps, Grab, or just messaging just in case. So yeah, 3 weeks of that. Well, I mean, you go back to your hotel room, you're taking a nap, you're winding down, you pull it out and get on Wi-Fi. But like that amount of time being away from it, it kind of changes your perspective. Kind of like what you were saying, Gerald, with the putting a giant barrier on actually doom scrolling, right? For me, it was like, oh shit, I'm gonna run out of data if I'm just watching the stupid video or sending it to somebody. I'll do it in a hotel room.
How'd you feel at the time, and what'd you feel like?
One, I'm in another country, so it's foreign. I'm like literally observing. I'm watching. I'm like paying attention to people because I love that when it's traveling, right? trying to see other
Yeah.
people's lifestyles and stuff. So yeah, that's the big one. And also, you know, you're in another country. You gotta like keep your eyes open and shit, just in case.
So why can't that same concept, what you just said, be applied here? Like, how have you guys scrolled all your neighborhood? Have you like ventured out to new restaurants? I think I sent you to places, Gerald, like in San Diego. I'm like, it's a dope ass place. I don't know if you've been there. You know, there's like, do you take the time to figure those things out? You know, or would you rather just stay at home in the comfort of your nice house? And that's good too, but it's also like there's a lot of advantages to just getting out. I guess going back to the finance thing, like don't spend money to put yourself in a place where you're going to be broke. But if you have some expendable, like put it in your budget to like consider it therapy for this. Like, you know, this is what you're trying to keep away from. Like, you know, use that opportunity to go, like you said, like find new things, you know, like explore new things and do something.
So
And I
I
think
mean,
again,
it's not just like, oh, I need to like be away from this thing and be afraid of it.
yeah,
It's more like I'm taking agency over my time, right? And that's something that I really felt like I was losing because I
Yeah.
was on it so much.
yeah,
And I mean, especially during COVID, right? During COVID, it was like you got shit to do. You are just like, boy, I was on that thing for like 4 hours a day probably during COVID. Um,
what were you
and
losing, I guess, with that, like with time? Like, did you do your
I just
chores
felt like,
more? Did you do
yeah.
things more? What did you get as a result?
I think one thing is that I like challenging myself.
Mhm.
You know, I like finding new things to learn and like grow, you know, and I think I was just talking to my wife about this, just like being comfortable with being uncomfortable, you know, like being in that state for longer, like you actually notice how much you change in a really short amount of time when you're like that for the better, in my opinion, right? Like,
I'm sorry, I'm confused. So like, what did you, how, so I
so,
was wondering, like,
so
what
my,
did you learn from dropping it?
my point being is that
Yeah.
like this was just comfort to me.
Yeah.
You know, if I was bored, that
Yeah.
was painful. That was uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh, comfort, easy,
I see.
love it.
Okay.
Or if I was, lonely, right? Like I didn't have anyone to be talking to. Like, okay, cool. I'll do this
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've been doing is they call it Waffle Wednesday. It's like it's I don't know who started it, but basically it's instead of like sending someone a text, you send them a quick voice or a video of
Yeah.
like, hey, this is what's been going on in my life the last like week. Feel free to respond if you want to, but like you don't have to, no pressure, you know, but it's a way to connect in a much more personal way, right? And
Yeah.
did this with you, Sean
Yeah.
Broad. Like I think
Yeah.
it um it forced me to use like a different part of my brain and like my emotions, right? And I think one of the things that I learned is that this was deadening a lot of like the expansion, you know, like when I'm trying to like expand, and I just felt like it was an anchor just pulling me down, right? And I get it. Everyone's going through their own thing, you know, different stages in life. Like, you know, you got to do whatever you can to survive, right? And I think for a while, like, this is the only thing I could do. You know, like I was getting no sleep. Drew, you're probably in that right now. Bro, I'm on empty. This is all I got.
Well, Gerald,
Lots of
since you,
doom scrolling.
Yeah.
you've been digging into people, can I dig into you a little more with what you said?
Please.
Because I feel like you were missing something from what he said. So how long would you say you were doom scrolling before you like made this conscious decision to like, I'm going to cut this off? Like how many,
I was
'cause
probably,
they're like 2.5, 3 hours is what they're saying a day. So
yeah,
like,
during COVID, I was probably closer to 4.
well, it's like on average from when
On average, like
from when
4
you
hours a
stop.
day, probably. I was just like,
Okay.
on Instagram or like Twitter or like LinkedIn. I was literally just on any type of social media, and I was just like, oh,
And
okay.
was that purely just like fun pleasure? Because it seems like LinkedIn would be more somewhat work related, business
It
related.
is work related, but you'd be surprised at how you can just spend time on LinkedIn. It's like, oh, I used to work with that guy. I wonder what he's doing now. And
I
then
see.
all of a
Yeah,
sudden, I'm like scrolling through his whole
I see.
history, and it's like, for what?
I see.
What the fuck
So
did I
wait,
do
so
that
you're
for?
talking 4 hours a day?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said Waffle Wednesdays is not Waffle Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Thursday, just Wednesday?
Oh, no, that's just the name of that movement. Like they just called
Yeah.
it Waffle Wednesday because like every
Yeah.
Wednesday they would send like everyone in their group
Yeah.
like a message. It's like a bulletin
Yeah.
almost,
Yeah.
right?
S-
Um,
I guess so. The
my
question is
point
like,
with
sorry, go ahead.
oh
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
So like, were you able to gain by dropping, like freeing up 4 hours of your day? Like, what have you found? What
Oh
did you
yeah,
get for your 4 hours? Basically, you got 4 hours now today. Like, what the hell did I get back today?
4 hours
Like,
gave
what
me
did
so
you
much
get?
time to spend with my family, like literally being present when my kids are around. Like I admit sometimes I still pull my phone out, but most of the time it's for work, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
responding to an email or like a Slack, and it's like, oh shoot, like I didn't think about that, and then I kind of have to do it in the moment, and my kids are around, and I hate when I do that, but it's like, it's the bill, so I have to do it. So that's something that I've gotten back, like time with my family, um, more energy actually to go work out. Like as weird as that sounds, um, I I was doom scrolling in the morning, and it's hard for me now to work out like deep in the afternoon or at night. Like I have to do it in the morning before noon or like right around noon. So like freeing up an hour in the morning gave me that time to go work out. That's a big difference. Um, and and I think the Waffle Wednesday thing that I was talking about is
Yeah.
like I was substituting actually making a connection with people by scrolling, right? I was like, oh, like let me check out what Drew's doing. Like, oh, I'm gonna check out his story. Like, oh, cool, he's in Hawaii, awesome. And Drew, you don't know that I saw that. We didn't have the conversation about that. I feel like I know that that happened to you, but that's not a real conversation or a connection with someone, right? And so, like, the Waffle Wednesday, the reason I brought that up is I've been doing that and I've been getting responses, and it's like actually fun, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a connection that now it's like, dude, thank you so much for thinking of me. Like, even just having some mind share that, Sean, I know you were thinking about me enough to record a 2-minute video and send it to me. Like, that is a very different thing than like, I'm just going to scroll and check out what Rod's been doing the last month. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I got from it. Um,
Yeah. Because I know it's not like, okay, you've been scrolling for 4 hours. That's what you say. Because it's not like you have a 4 hour window.
no, no, no,
You're,
no, no.
you're in
It's
there.
like,
Yeah. It's like it's
no, it's
nuggets.
like,
And I think,
oh, okay, like my call's done, or like, okay, like my kid's sleeping. Awesome. I'm gonna scroll for like 20 minutes. Like,
yeah. And I think Andrew like threw that word out there, like microdosing. And it's like, it's a thing now, like, because they have like this micro learning. That's a thing where like, you're reading chunks of information rather than doom scrolling. Because like you
what is
actually
that
take
exactly?
micro
I've
learning.
heard of it.
Yeah, it's like
What
where you're
exactly?
reading,
How does
like
it?
you're taking, like, if you want to know about health, instead of scrolling for 15 minutes, you spend 15 minutes, you're researching health shit. Like you look
Uh,
through and you like get like the summaries of stuff, and you just get that surface level things to kind of generate your thinking. And that's what
uh,
you do. And you cut that off. And then your next little 15-minute chunk, instead of when you want to just like endlessly scroll through random, you're conscious about the content that you're feeding yourself.
is that an app, or how are
No,
you doing that?
it's just like it's a new buzzword for men. Or I think it came across like they talk about it for growth, and like, read this book for 30 minutes, read this one for
It's
30
like
minutes.
mental snacking.
Kind of, yeah, that was the other word you guys threw out there. But it's just,
Yeah.
they all allude to the same thing that you're saying, where you don't have a 4-hour chunk, but it's being conscious of your little chunks of time, because they create habits in your mind.
Yeah.
Right? If your habit is to lean on this when you're bored or you're lonely, that's a bad habit. That's like drinking and smoking. You're
Yeah.
leaning on something else to cure loneliness or boredom. Do something, like, be conscious of what you're using that time for, to learn something, basically, is what it's saying.
Yeah.
That's that's what I'm saying. Like, I wanted to know, like, what did you, like, for me, I feel blessed because, like, I don't think I spend that much time on social media at all, at least for personal stuff, because I got this coffee thing going. So it's like, I'm very conscious and intentional about what I'm doing now. But I know, like, if I didn't have that, I'd probably be in that same boat. And like the bathroom thing now, man, I'm like, I intentionally stopped that. Or I did do that till dropped my phone a couple of times. I got a piece of shit on the phone. I was like, shit just happened, man. Just, I'm gonna throw it out there. That never happened to you? Never dropped your phone, cracked it?
Not in the toilet.
Not in the toilet.
You know how it drops? Because I put it in my pocket, and then when I stand up, it leans over and it slips out, especially when I'm wearing shorts. That's when the shit happens. My pockets, like on some of my shorts, they're like short.
Not
so my
deep
phone
enough,
is
man.
like hanging out the side. So when I stand up, anyway, you're welcome, people. All the funny.
When I stand up, my
no,
pants are by my ankle.
Well, they're not all.
that's
I
true.
don't pull them all the way down sometimes. Like sometimes they're like mid thigh.
Sean's like sitting on his shorts.
Well, I get it.
They're like by the knees.
No, I get it when you're in public, right? And the floor's a little wet. You're like, no, nothing's going down.
He's aggressively pulling his shorts up.
But no, man. I think it's just like I don't know.
I agree with you though about like having something to be working on. Like, Drew, I don't know if you want to share what you're working on, but like for me, like this takes up a lot of my time too, right? Like in between calls, sometimes I'll do some editing, or I'll think about like how I want it to be presented, or, like I'm writing a lot of stuff down. And then like one other thing is like, I'm just thinking about, other things, right? It's like I have a running list of topics that I'm like trying to learn about. Right now, it's actually like retirement. I know we were talking about that a little bit. Like that's a whole other rabbit hole, but that is a beast of a topic, right? Like retirement, taxes, like when do you actually want to do it? Like all of that stuff. And I'm starting to get into that mode where I'm like, okay, I need to really educate myself. And shout out to my wife because she's like all about that. And I'm like, okay, I need to do better because I want to be able to contribute because there's a lot to learn. So yeah, that's what I got back to answer your question.
But yeah, that's the shit though, man. That's the thing that I think like a takeaway message. I know we're jumping ahead on that is like there's nothing wrong with scrolling, but if you don't want to fall victim to the bad side of it, be conscientious of what it is you're scrolling through, because like there's a lot of good content for stuff out there. Like for me, for the coffee thing, I'll doom scroll through that and I get ideas. I see new coffee. I find things that actually inspire me or validate that I'm on the right path. And so I want to keep seeing that.
So you're not actually doom scrolling. You're actually doing like research, right? Like
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. No, like you're on Instagram or whatever platform you're using and you're like, okay, what are examples of content that I think would work for Emerald Bean? Like,
yeah, it's feeding me good shit. But the collateral gain of that is I see some friends and people I know, like I get a little snippet of it, but I don't spend too much time on it. Because if you do, or if you slide over it, now it's going to throw it off. So I won't go past like the caption. I'll just look at the caption. I'll go through it.
Yeah.
Because the shit times you. And if you have any action on there, it fucks you up. So I'm like, I'll click the more if the caption captures me. If I'm like, damn, I want to know about what they saw there, I will click it to read it. But then that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of
How
willpower. A lot of
No,
willpower
it
to do this.
is. You're not lying, man. Because like Gerald, like they know, man.
they know,
It's
dude.
like dopamine. They're hitting you hard. They get you so hard. Emotion. If you're sad, fuck, dude. It's like the shoulder to lean on. Just like fuck, man. Just like every goddamn emotion you have. If you look at something, sorry, go ahead.
No, one thing I will say though is like there are some positives to it, right? Like Drew, you were saying that you got fed an Instagram ad that led to your kettlebell workout routine.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't have found that
No.
if it wasn't
No.
for IG, right? So
Mhm.
like not everything is bad and not everything is, all good. Like it's the truth is always in the middle, right? So
Just
uh,
like the food, man. It's like the whole.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I am not done with that conversation. There's a lot there where I'm very heated about the state that we're in. It's like, how are we the wealthiest nation in the world and we cannot figure out how to put real guardrails around how we feed our own people? Like, I mean, that's again another conversation, but yeah.
You guys know
Anything you
who
guys?
Amin is? Well, Gerald knows Amin. Amin Zufanon. He was a
Yeah.
Facebook dude. We all went backpacking one day. We went backpacking with him, and we got into a conversation. Jimmy was with us too, and we got into somewhat of a similar conversation about like making the world better. We were talking about just like nutrition, and then we were just like, because I think it was like during the riots, and people were just mad. And then one of the things he mentioned, like he said, like the world just needs spirituality, no matter what that is. And I kind of agreed with him, but I didn't really understand what that meant. But I took that with me, and not to get too deep with it, but even with this conversation, how like they say, like philosophically speaking, right? A lot of decisions and actions and the world, like it's mathematical, right? They have like quantum physics and just things are just calculated. You just don't understand it unless you really dig deep. And what we're talking about is like everything we're saying has a balance, right? We're always like, and that's spirituality because there's always a good and there's always a bad. There's always a yin, and it's always like trying to find what that is and applying this idea of there's always a good and there's always a bad. There's always just enough and there's always too much or there's too little in everything that you do, you know? And just finding what that is. And if you apply that kind of spirituality to everything, whether you eat, you're working out, how you treat people, your family, like all of it, there's always a balance, And it's just a crazy way of looking at the world. And I try to be that way. And I'm not perfect. I still go to church, but I don't go to church because I believe wholeheartedly in Jesus or God. But I also don't discredit it because I think I'm around a lot of bad shit sometimes where like, it's not perfect. I don't believe that. But I also try to find some balance in my life that's going to help me stay in the middle, But anyway, it's just a
What
random thought.
exactly do you get from going to church?
Positivity. Like you get positive people, you get like messages of goodness. So if I were to believe in a God, you get these moral principles of what a God would be. Like be forgiving, forgive your friend, have mercy on people. Like
Like a good message, a
just
framework to
messages
like live
outside of
your
a tissue
life.
box.
Yeah.
Like the shit you see on people's carpets or hung up on their wall. It's just when you hear those messages from people all the time. And what's crazy is like there are people in church that are really going through some shit, and they are really trying to find some solution or some help to help them deal with their adversity or whatever it is that they're dealing with. And I don't want to wait for my day to come. I want to be spiritually strong. So if something does come, I will be okay with it. And that's kind of where I am right now, where it's like, if I were to, and that's why I keep saying, like, if I die tomorrow, I don't want to have regrets. That's part of like releasing yourself and being honest and truthful with everything. Cause I think that's what a God would do, right? It's like you got to be forgiving. You got to find balance. You guess, and it starts with yourself anyway. Yeah.
Or do you feel like you have any balance in your life right now?
No, everything's all screwed up.
Say more.
My balance comes from, me forcing myself to get a workout in. It's the only thing that's kind of keeping me sane with everything that's going on. Lack of sleep does add up,
Fucks
and
you up, dude.
yeah, and
Fucks you up.
and sometimes it's not easy for me to work out, but I know that when I do that, it puts me a little bit more better into equilibrium, and it does put me in a better position if I don't get a workout in. If I don't get a workout in, I'm an asshole, and you can ask my wife that. Um, if we're talking about spirituality, I'm not on that same level like Sean. I don't go to church. It's not something that I'm seeking. So I guess if you want to tie this back to our conversation about people's nutrition, this is not if I don't know what spirituality is because it's not something that I'm going out to look for. So I don't know the value it brings to me.
Mm.
But someone like
Yep.
Sean, he knows the value that it has for him.
Yep.
It's something
Yep.
that he's also looking for.
I love that you tied that in together because and I'm probably closer to where you're at, Drew, where like it's not something I'm searching for, but to your point earlier, you don't go searching for it until you feel like you need it, right? And I think it's something I'm just becoming more aware of the older I get, and it might just be like the people around us are starting to face their mortality a little bit more, right? And that is just kind of like a natural landing place for people to find comfort is in spirituality or a belief in um, the afterlife or, whatever it is, right? I think for me right now, it's difficult because and this is like a whole other conversation, but like there is just so much cognitive dissonance that comes with religion, right? And like religion can be intertwined or, used in a similar way as spirituality. So, it's something that should be defined, but like, yeah, it's interesting. Like my dad, he's like devout Catholic until you get him talking one-on-one and he's kind of like, actually, I'm not really sure. And like, he's kind of like, I'm just kind of hedging my bets in case there actually is a God and I die and like, I'll be safe. It'll be all good. I'm like, what the fuck? Like that to me, I'm like, that's like everything that's wrong with religion. And yeah, anyway, it's a lot of that shame and fear and, all of those things that come with religion. And, I think there is a balance, I think there is something there I think there is something that connects people, right? There is something that a rock and a tree aren't probably feeling with one another. I mean, I don't know, maybe there is, but like, I'd say there's something that happens here, when I'm talking to you guys, and it's not just something that's explained in a biology textbook, right? And I think there is a level of like understanding, and to your point, Sean, balance and like the yin and the yang. And it's like, you're always changing, you're always moving. There's always like an ebb and a flow. And then it's more about, to me, the way I think about it is like, are you moving in a certain direction, right? It's directionality. Like, yeah, you're going to fuck up. You're going to like do great, for a couple of weeks, and then you're going to fall off the boat and, whatever, right? But like, as long as you're like kind of striving for something and changing and evolving and like gaining more knowledge, right? Like that to me is like, that's being alive, right? Like, I think at some point you kind of realize that, yeah, it's like the older you get, things start to slow down, like, and your body doesn't work the same. And even like your mental horsepower is not even the same, like, but you have knowledge, right? You have life and learned experiences, and that more than makes up for that and that is that yin and that yang, and you're in a different season, right? And where I'm going with that is, I think that is where the acceptance of other people eventually comes in, right? And realizing that everyone is probably in a different season of their life, that, maybe you don't know the whole story, and that's okay. And I think I can learn a lesson from you, Sean, to be more outgoing and have that deep conversation or deeper conversation with more people. I think that's something that I could do a better job of. I think I'm naturally more reserved. As I've gotten older, I've become more comfortable with myself and more willing to do that. But that's an uncomfortable place for me to be naturally. But yeah, that was a little bit of a tangent. But anything you guys
Rod?
wanted to add there?
Rod Deasy?
Nothing too much. I mean, we're talking about spirituality.
You look hella cute, by the way,
Thanks.
Rod.
and church. So I would say this last 4 months is probably the most I've gone to church in my adult life. And unfortunately, that's because I've attended 4 funerals in this last 4 months. So it's been a little bit different, being in a church environment. It's like, I grew up in this. I know what to do, but at the same time, it's been different because I'm attending a church that the room is filled with people I know. So it's a very unique scenario. And yeah, it kind of makes me think when I'm in there, I'm like, well, I grew up with this stuff. Is it, it's still ingrained in me. I'm, been Catholic since forever. Yeah. So yeah, to your guys' point, it definitely makes me think. I don't know what direction I want to go with it. I just know that, I do what all the stuff we do. I stand up, and then I know I kneel, and then, one thing that's new now, though, one thing I noticed this across multiple Catholic churches is when they, they go, what do you call that when you get the communion?
Communion?
Yeah. They're like, oh, if you're Catholic, we'll do communion. But if you're not Catholic, or if you're not comfortable with it, you just you can wait in line and you just go like this, and we'll bless you. Like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen that before. Normally, if you don't know what they're doing, you just stay seated, and people will walk over you.
They've all the churches that I've been to, actually, like ever since I was a kid, they all did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
So
you just go up and then they'll make the sign of the cross over you.
Like
But
a little gang sign.
Wakanda.
That's what that was. I was gonna say that, but
yeah, that was the first time I've
rest in
seen
peace.
it, and to me, I was just like, oh, it kind of makes sense. Maybe it's like a post-COVID thing. If you don't want people
I've never seen
sticking stuff in your mouth.
Do they still give wine?
I didn't see that. It's just the.
Not to the participants. Or like not. I
Oh
don't know what they
yeah.
call 'em,
It's on the side.
For the parishioners? Yeah. They used to do wine, but I haven't seen it in the last couple of years.
I don't ever remember getting that. But
$2 Chuck, baby.
I don't go to I don't go to a Catholic church. Like, I might get canceled. I have a problem with the Catholic Church. Like, there's.
Oh, that's definitely another
much.
conversation. Yeah, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a whole. But the spiritual part of me is putting that aside, because I know that there are people that go there that seek that need that kind of help with their spiritual journey to help them be happy. And that's the only part of me that like isn't so negative, because I know there are people that rely on that, and it brings happiness to them to help them deal with whatever life circumstances they're going. So I can't say something like that, because then what are those people going to have if they rely on that to help get them through whatever life is given? And that's what makes it hard for me. But I have problems with that, and I don't go to but I don't disrespect them. I don't say anything bad. Sure. But if you ask me personally offline, there are some things that I have concerns with, and I will tell you what those are. but at the same time, I'm not going to speak bad. Like I go to a general Christian church, man, and it's just like the pastor got nice shoes. You'd have a good conversation with them. The music is good. Their sound is always like
Is that with
awesome.
the rock band? Some churches have like,
Yeah, they got a full band. It's like it's loud. Like it gives me a good positive place, man. And that's what I get out of it. And everything that says like believe in God, that says believe in me. That's what I hear. So if they say believe in God when you feel a certain way, so when like okay things aren't going the way you wanted, feel it in yourself and don't give up. That's the kind of spirituality that I get. So that no matter what life is giving you, I know I have this like spiritual being in me telling me like, hey, this is temporary. You're going to get over it. Just keep going. It's like this little person in me talking to me. So whether that's God or whoever, but I think that only comes because I have that, I go to that so much that I have that little person to bring that positivity in me.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what it gives to me personally. And I think the world, like they knock all spirit, they knock all of that so much. So then now what is your moral compass now? What is your moral guidance? Your parents on the phone too. Like, you don't know, there's no moral compass anymore. That's what I think.
well, I think it makes sense.
And later, all right, one last
Go
thought.
for it.
There's real, I'm going on that tangent because that all ties into like how you talk to people about health, how you talk to people about finances. Like it all ties in. Like happiness is like, you have those pillars of health, man. It's like your physical health, spiritual health, financial health, and physical. Those are like your pillars. And they're all intertwined. And that's where the whole spirituality thing came from, by the way. Sorry.
No, so I was going to say, it makes sense how you're saying, like, you go to a Christian church and how you pointed out earlier, how you look for that positive message and the vibes that go with it. Because when you said that, I was like, I don't know, man. Catholic churches, when they're reading scriptures, my eyes roll back and I'm just like I can never like understand or connect to I mean, it depends on your church, right? But yeah, if it's like, an old book and there's talking about some old, I can't relate to that. So I've always like zoned out during that part.
We're smarter now, man. That's the thing. Like the Catholic Church doesn't realize that we've evolved and we're actually smart. Like you need to be more real with us. You cannot like just throw these stories
I
at
mean,
us, scare the shit out of us and expect us to like just fall in line. Like it's just not.
But like that goes,
Anyway.
it goes with anyone or anything that has like that charisma, right? Like you're kind of drawn to somebody's story when they're telling such a good story, versus reciting last week's whatever. Anyway, sorry, tangent.
Cool. Well, weekly tradition. How we felt about the episode. Want to understand like, what was your one takeaway? What was your one takeaway from the conversation? Whoever wants to kick us off.
All right, I guess I'll start. I kind of touched on this earlier. It brought me back to when Sean was talking about like talking to people. I mentioned back at the gym when we converted from on-ramp to one-on-ones, and I remember going through like sales training and how to talk to people, and I wish I had that skill. And I point to you, Gerald. I'm sure like that stuff flows out of you. It just oozes when you're, or even Sean or whatever, or Drew. But for me, naturally, it's just like it goes against my grain. I'm just naturally like, if you don't talk to me, I won't talk to you, and we're good. But yeah, that's something I need to get more comfortable with, and maybe I'll tinker with that.
Love it.
For me, I want to do more. I want to do more of less doom scrolling. Probably not to the extreme that Gerald takes it by just not having access to the app. I still want it. I still want to be able to use it. There's a lot of like, it still is a good tool. Whether it's for me, sometimes it's a motivational tool, sometimes it's a discovery tool. I don't want to lose that connection, but I do want to not, first thing you wake up, scroll on the phone and then like, oh, an hour passed by. And I'm trying to make a conscious effort to do less of that. And so, I'm seeing Gerald's side where you just cut it off completely. Like you know, it's got no value for you. Just cut it off. But for someone like Sean, it helps him stay in touch with the, with the coffee world. It's giving him that little connection, especially if he's going to Colombia. You don't always have that connection there. So I want to use it. I want to treat it more like a tool and less of a.
Love that.
I don't know. For me, I think the takeaway today is I'm gonna go back to the spiritual thing, just because I like that. I think the takeaway for me is that, like, just hearing you like all the three of you speak, it kind of, I don't know. I even though not there's not necessarily disagreements, I think we just our life circumstances views things differently, right? We just kind of see things and use things differently. But I think the good thing is that you got like the intentions are all good. And that's kind of going back to like the godly thing and not judging people for what they do and how they choose to do things, because you might not know what their circumstances. But fortunately, I kind of have a good understanding of each of your life circumstances and situations. And I see that no matter what, like you're still like, you're good people, is my point. And that to me, it's a good takeaway. Like I said at the beginning, where we have like long-term people that you selectively do that. And so I'm just, again, hearing as we go deeper and deeper in our conversations that, yeah, it's validating what I believe in the beginning, is that you guys are good people, man. And like, I keep certain people around because of that sincerity. Like they are sincere people, because there are people that, that are just fun to be around, but they're not really sincere to be themselves. And I feel like in these conversations we're having, we're all be like a little more vulnerable. And that, again, that's what we talked about earlier. And we're like gradually sinking into our seats and getting more and more. And I think it's a good thing to me. So I think it'll only like help our conversations in this whole podcast kind of evolve even more, the more comfortable we feel with just like, because at some point we're going to forget that this camera's going and we're just going to let it rip. Because I started feeling that a little bit now. Like I forget, because like our cameras are clear. Your fucking face looks real. This is like, damn, you're like right in front of me. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I agree with you. I think for me, first of all, it's good to have all four of us on here. Drew, love having you on here, man. I know you have a lot going on in your life, but appreciate you literally carving out like one of your few waking hours in the night to spend with us, man. I know how hard that can be. I think for me, like that action of being intentional about spending the time to have these conversations, and like allowing me to dig into you guys a little bit about like where's the catalyst, where's the thing that made you make that shift. And like for me, I want to keep building that, and I think that's where I was going with my questions, and just trying to uncover more of how you guys either consciously or unconsciously fell into something, right? Like I think to me that's actually really important, because people will sleepwalk through their own lives.
Yep.
And unless you consciously make a decision about where you want to take it directionally, you will literally just become an average of the people that you are around, right? And that's not always a bad thing, if you have good people around you, but it's also not always true to what you want, right? And I think having these conversations, and I think the takeaway for me really is around like, how do you make those choices, right? Like, where is the action coming from that then creates the downstream consequence that you're looking for? So I think I'm getting it out of like my own reflection and hearing how you three also like have thought about it, or what your situations were to get you to that, not even endpoint, but like just where we're at now, right? And I'm very grateful for that. So like it's not really like a specific thing about like a specific topic. It's more like a overarching thing that I'm starting to develop and create a hypothesis around. So I appreciate you guys going on this journey with me.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, episode 4 in the books. That was a fun one. Appreciate you guys. 2 sets and 2 cents. Until the next one. Love you guys.
Let's go.